Welcome to General Ledjah's guide to the GST QST template. This is a template we've made for people that have GST QST numbers to help keep track of the taxes they've collected and paid during the year, as well as keeping track of their expenses. There are 5 sheets in this workbook. The income page, the expenses page, home office page, car page, and the meals page. These last 4 are related to expenses that you can claim taxes on, that you will also keep track of for your income tax at the end of the year. The income page has a section at the top that looks like your GST QST remittance form with the appropriate box numbers. All of these boxes will be filled out as you fill in your sheet, and at the end you can just copy these numbers directly onto your remittance form, whether that's at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, or the end of the month, depending on your. So here on the income page, I'm going to record all of my income from the reporting period. On every page, this top column here just gives a running total of everything that's happening below, and all of the taxes from the income and expenses are going to appear in running totals also in the green boxes. So here is some of my income from the first quarter. I charged John $500, so I know that I should charge him $25 in GST, $49.88 in QST, for a total of $574.88. I did a bit of other work in February for another $500, and I did a bit of work in March. And that was $250. Notice here this province column is in case I've charged clients or had clients from outside of Quebec. So in this case, this client was in Ontario. I just put my 2-letter provincial abbreviation there, and it adjusts the taxes to be appropriate for Ontario. 13% HST shows up in the GST column, and all of this shows up again in the green box. The taxing column is in case you have forgotten to enter your income ahead of time, and you just put it in when you get your check, and you know your check was for $574.88. You can put that in the taxing column, and it tells you how much tax there was on that paycheck. So far in this quarter, I've charged $1,250, and I've collected $82.50 in GST, $99.75 in QST. And this is the net that I've collected. So now we're going to move on to the expenses page. Again, this is for business-related expenses. Here are some examples of categories of types of expenses that you could have, and that's what I'm going to put in the type of expense column over here. So I bought some office supplies, and I have a receipt for $52.37. That was in Quebec, so I can leave this blank, or I can write Quebec. It tells you that my gross was $45.55, and this is the tax that I paid on those expenses. So I'll just put in a couple others here. I went went on a business trip. I took a bus and it was $90 tax in. And so now here are the taxes that I've paid on these expenses. So again, this sheet is for general business expenses. Your home office, your car, and your meals have their own separate sheets. So let's say while I was traveling, I traveled to the States and I took a taxi. That's part of my travel expenses, but it was $15. There's no taxes on that. So I put my F in there and it keeps track of the expense, but it doesn't add any tax. And we can also see that at this point, the expenses, the taxes that I've paid on expenses, has now appeared on this income sheet again, which is keeping a running tally of everything that I've collected and owe during this period. So we're going to move to the home office page. On the side here are types of expenses that are admissible. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in the total of all of our expenses. So if it's rent and it's $500 a month, there are no taxes on my home rent, so I'm going to put an F in there. Then I have my utility bill, my hydro bill, and that one is $55. There is tax on that. And then I have, say, my home internet bill, and that's also $50. There's tax on that also. So now this represents my total expenses for a month, but my home office, say, covers only 15%. Let's say my apartment is 800 square feet and my office is 100 square feet. Then I'm going to put 100 here and 800 here. And so my home office expense is 13% of the total expense, and that's how much tax I can claim as an expense. If you don't know the area of your office, you can also just stick in a percentage here if you know it's approximately 15%. For car expenses, we're going to do the same thing. The best way to keep track of your car expenses, the proper way, is to record all of your car expenses and then adjust them by, again, the number of kilometers that you drive for work in the period. Let's say it's 5,000, but I drove a total of 10,000 kilometers in that period, so 50% of it was for my car use. But then I'm going to put in all of my car expenses, so my gas, my repairs, and some parking. And then here's the running total of all of the taxes that I've paid, and this is the admissible portion that's based on my business use of my car. Meals are admissible only at 50% all the time, so here I'm just going to put in all of my relevant business meals, put in my receipts. Whatever they are, the taxes that I've spent on them. Oh, I got a meal also in Manitoba while I was there. There's different taxes on those. PST is not, you don't get to claim it back where it's charged, so it becomes part of your expense. But you can only collect back the GST you've paid. So that's for Manitoba, New Brunswick, and I think BC. So now I can go back to my income page, and I can see again all of the taxes that I've collected from this page, and then the sum of all of the admissible taxes from all of my other pages: expenses, home office, car, and meals. Uh, this is the difference, and this is how much I owe. Just a couple of pointers before we finish. Um, it's best to keep a separate one of these files for each reporting period that you have. So if you report quarterly, um, best to save as a different file name for each of your 4 quarters, and then each of those files will contain an accurate representation of the remittance that you submitted for that quarter, in case anybody asks questions later on. And the last thing is that on your general business expenses page, for our purposes, certainly it's easiest if you can try and be as consistent as possible and keep your number of categories reasonable, and group them in groups that make sense, and keep those same types of expenses throughout all of your reporting for clarity later on. And so that's the GST QST template. Thank you very much.